Hi, I'm Tony. This is me in my studio, and of course, you don't need a studio to do what I'm going to work through with you for this project. But I just thought that might be nice to show you a couple of things that I've done around transformation, and that's the word we're going to play around with today. Transformation, how do we transform one thing into another? Okay, I like to play with words. So here's a neon that I made, and this is playing with two words that resonate with me as a disabled person: tragic and brave. And they're two words that, how do I link them together? And I started to think about making a cross and using the A as the letter that linked the two words together. So from playing around with words, playing around with anagrams, I came up with something based around a sweet that I really like to eat. This is polo. You will maybe know polo mint. This is polo fruit. I really like the sweeties, and I like the word polo, and so I started to make these, and these become big polos, but they change from being a polo into a loop, and that's how I transformed and play around with that word in that particular piece of sculpture. I'm going to whiz downstairs now to tell you about some other things. So I'll see you in a minute. Hello again. Right, so what I want to think about now is what we might need to use when we make our transformational piece of work. And I'm thinking household things that you might put in your recycling bins: tin cans, plastic bottles, you might have string, you might have a craft knife, a pair of scissors. You don't need fancy tools. If we make a mobile, you might need coat hangers, the sort of metal coat hangers that we can unravel a bit, or you might need, I don't know what else you might need. Let's play around and see what we come up with, and then you can decide what you want to make. But start thinking, bring your imaginations and think about transformation. Maybe start playing with some words, anagrams, and how words sit together, and then we'll gather some tools and make something. I'm thinking about Picasso's freedom dove, the peace dove, and maybe I might make a mobile using Picasso's dove of peace as my inspiration. Okay, see you in a minute. All right, so simple things. Cardboard box, maybe one will be enough, depends how many birds you want to make. The image of Picasso's dove of peace, and you can draw it. A pair of scissors and some sellotape, sticky back tape, and a pencil, either a hard pencil or a soft pencil. Soft pencil's good for the shading, hard pencil's good for tracing round. You can just use one pencil, and that's all we need for our tools and equipment. Oh, and a little bit of wool, string or cotton to tape them up with. Okay, so I've cut out my piece of cardboard. I've laid my image on top, and I'm now just going to quickly go around the outline. So you get the picture. This is what I do, and I do all the way around it, obviously. So this is what I end up with when I've gone all the way around it. Okay, that's all I need. I'm going to start cutting it out. And it's simple, and if you want to paint it, you could paint it white if you wanted to stay authentic to the white dove of peace. You could paint it silver, you could put glue on it and sprinkle, I don't know, silvery, glittery things on. You can do all kinds of things. Okay, I'm not going to bore you while I'm cutting this out, so cut. Okay, so I've nearly cut this out, and you don't have to be too accurate. You don't have to slavishly stick to the lines, because it can be nice and loose. And I've decided, rather than cut these round like Picasso's rounding them off at the end, I thought I might just leave them pointed because I'm being a bit lazy. So this is the tail. I'm making it a bit bigger as well, and I might just round that off a bit and maybe that one off a bit. Okay, so that's our basic shape. Now this is the simple option. This is this one. Okay, and all I've done here is when I've cut it out, I've literally folded that wing. I put my finger underneath a bit to get a bit of roundedness in it. I basically just folded it over, curve it maybe a little bit. So that gives me that wing, and then I actually cut round that shape of that wing. So maybe just cut it even a little bit more so it bends, and then that gives me that wing. And that's my wings curved up, and I might just put a little twist in the tail, maybe curve them over a little, just to give that sense of animation. And I don't know whether how I did it on this one. You might not have one of these hole punches, but I thought what we're going to do about give it an eye. So I stuck it in the hole punch and just popped a hole in it, and that gave me my eye. But it doesn't matter, you can paint an eye or you can draw it. And then if you notice, all I did here was sellotape underneath a little bit of, let me bring it down so it's easier. I sellotaped a little bit of cotton underneath like that to hold it up. So that's it, that's him, easy, done, finished. You remember that I said we'd cut the wing out of the flappy bit, so we'd have the flappy bit inside. So I'm kind of imagining where this line is here, of the flappy foldy bit, and I'm putting my template over there like that to get my wing. Okay, I'm just going to do the same thing, just draw my wing, and that should give me that shape on there. Can you see it? I'll just draw it in so you can see it. So got my flappy sort of thing there, and this will be the bit that sits inside the body. Okay, that makes sense. Right, I'll cut it out now, but you don't need to watch me. Cut. Okay, now the things we've got to really remember here when we've cut out two sides of our bird is that we want the white cardboard side on the outside. So don't cut them both facing the same way, cut them both in opposite ways. Does that make sense? One facing that way, one facing that way, and we've got them. Now when you put them together, they might not be quite perfect. You can always trim the edges if you want to. So that's a little bit out. I might just trim that a little bit. It doesn't matter desperately. Just trim that. Okay, so I've got my two halves of my birds. I've cut my two wings out, and again, if you remember, I said cut it so you've got the flap of the cardboard box. So these flappy bits are what you want for the little tab on the wing. Okay, so then what we do with these two bits, and what I did with this one, is I got a bit of sellotape and I taped it underneath just to keep it from falling apart. Okay, so I've got it like that. Now I'm going to trap my wings inside, so I want him to go in there, and he's a bit big there, so I'm going to just going to trim that down a little bit. I can even just trim it into there like that, so that gives me that wing in there. I'm going to trim a bit off there as well. So it doesn't matter, you can do all this trimming and fooling around. And if you get it wrong, you can just cut out and make another wing. Okay, so he's going to tuck in there, and I'm literally going to open him up, put him there where I want him, get a bit of sellotape and tape it down inside. So it's dead simple. Okay, so that's wing number one. So far so good. I'm going to trim the back off as well, I think. That's great. Okay, so wing number 2 is going in here. And again, I've made sure that what I've tried to do is get the cardboard on the outside and the pattern underneath. You can paint it out, or you can double them up and stick them together. Again, I'm just lining that up like that, getting a bit of sellotape, sellotaping that like that. So I've got my 2 wings, my 2 bits of body, bring it together. A bit of advertising there for Jordans. There's my 2 wings. Okay, I'm going to sellotape his head to just stop him falling apart while we do this. Just trim that bit off. And what I did with this one is I quite liked to just fold. Do you know what? I think that wing's too big. So I'm just going to trim his wings. You can do whatever you want. Okay, so what I'm going to do with his tail, I just curved it out a little bit like that. Just almost bend it in the shape of the body. And you can curl them around, you can curl them up, you can do all sorts of things. And then when I've got it more or less how I like it, I might just put a bit of sellotape under there. I'm rushing this. You can do it a lot more tidy. Okay, so there we've got this bird. And again, if I want to, I can pop him in there and pop him an eye. And again, I just sellotape some wool and tape him up with my other bird. Okay, if you want it to be pretty, you can paint it, you can take a lot more time, you can cover it in glitter, you can do all kinds of things, you can be really tidy. You could, with the needle and thread, you could thread the cotton through if you wanted it to look like that. And you can fool about. And I'm not going to recommend you do this because this is really sharp, but I started out making this bird out of a beer can. But you could use a drinks can, you could use anything because it's quite flimsy. So here is a bird made out of beer cans, but the thing is it's really quite sharp because it's metal. And I was able to cut it out with a pair of scissors. It is quite easy to cut. So it cuts easy, but it's very sharp. And what I did to hold him up, I literally got the ubiquitous toilet roll holder, cut a couple of splits in it, and then I sat him in so I could look at him flying and have him on my desk, because he's a bit shiny. And if you've got the window open, which I haven't got, but if I open the window you'll see all the birds will start moving if it was windy. There you go, artificial wind. And then I'll take this up at some point with a little bit of cotton or hanging from my lampshade. Alright, go forth, make birds, make peace. Thank you very much.